Mrs. Z here. I have a special treat for you. I've been busy the last couple of months, and I have written a children's book just for you. This book is a true story that happened right here on my farm, Hickory Creek Farm, and it's the story of my father-in-law, Luther Zimmerman's old tractor that he bought in 1949. It was an International M tractor, so we call it Emmy. That's Emmy right there. Isn't she beautiful? When Grandpa bought her, she was beautiful and brand new. But then through the years, as he used her here on the farm, she got old and tired and broken down. And she wouldn't even run anymore. Her engine stopped running. So Grandpa parked Emmy in his shed, and it just sat there for years and years and years until my son John was in high school. He took a real interest in restoring old tractors, and he pulled Emmy out of the shed, and with the help of a friend, he got her running again. And then he gave her a fresh coat of paint, and Emmy looked brand new. Wasn't that cool? Well, I think it's cool, and I sat down and wrote a children's book called Emmy Rides Again. And I thought I would read just a little bit of it for you so you could hear about Emmy. So here we go. Emmy Rides Again. Brrr! Emmy shivered as another gust of cold Kansas wind blew through the open barn door. It sure looked like another cold winter had just begun on the farm. It was only November, and already the thermometer had dipped down into the 20s during the night. Emmy shuddered sadly as she imagined the lonely, cold days ahead. The tired tractor hadn't always dreaded the coming winter days. In fact, she remembered wonderful times of days gone by. It seemed like only yesterday she was parked in front of Heartland Tractor Supply with a shiny new coat of red paint. She waited excitedly for the right farmer to come along and realized she was just what he needed. She didn't have long to wait. Mr. Z pulled into the graveled parking lot, determined to find just the right tractor to help him work his new farm. He slowly walked around the lot, carefully looking over each tractor for sale. Emmy was delighted when he spied her. "Oh, yes!" Mr. Z exclaimed. "That's the one!" He seated himself proudly on her metal seat and grabbed the steering wheel. "This is the one for me!" He patted her hood proudly and spoke to her. "Emmy, how would you like to come home with me?" That was just the beginning of many happy days for the little red tractor. She was Mr. Z's pride and joy. The work was hard, but Emmy loved giving her best. Her engine purred contentedly as she helped her farmer plow his fields, preparing the soil for planting. Emmy proudly pulled the green planter filled with yellow corn seeds. One by one, the seeds were buried in the soft soil in neat little rows. It was so exciting a few weeks later to see all the green corn plants shooting up through the dirt. As the corn grew, Emmy and Mr. Z spent many hours a day cultivating the weeds out of the rows. A cultivator is like a hoe hooked to a tractor, and it makes all the weeds go away between the rows. Sometimes Mr. Z let his little boy Steve, that's my husband, ride on his lap. The little guy squealed with delight as he steered the tractor between the rows, being careful not to run over any of the plants. By the end of the summer, the corn was as tall as Emmy. Mr. Z knew it was ready for harvest when the stalks looked dead and the ears pointed toward the ground. He hooked Emmy to the corn picker and headed for the field. Emmy was filled with wonder as she watched the yellow kernels pour into the wagon behind her. Next, it was time to grind the corn. Emmy was part of that too. She provided power for the old grinder. Emmy beamed with delight as she watched the farmer and his little boy carry buckets of ground corn to his animals. The pigs grunted with pleasure, and the milk cows chewed contentedly. Emmy helped Mr. Z bale hay in the heat of the summer so the cows would have plenty of hay to eat with their corn in the winter. Emmy loved to use her big bucket. The whole community cheered when she moved the snow off the road so they could make it to the church for the Christmas Eve program. Look at Emmy. She's moving all that snow with her big bucket hooked to the front. It wasn't all work for Emmy. What fun it was when Mr. Z threw a few of those hay bales in the back of the wagon. Anybody up for an adventure? Mrs. Z helped him load up the kids and fishing gear into the back of the wagon, and off they went to the pond for an evening of fishing and sleeping under the stars. The children were filled with wonder as Mr. Z pointed out the Big Dipper in the stars while they roasted marshmallows over the campfire. Emmy sighed contentedly. This is the life. It doesn't get any better than this. Doesn't that look like fun, riding in the back of the wagon on hay bales to the pond? Wouldn't you love to do that and sleep out under the stars? That means you wouldn't have a tent to sleep in. You just sleep on the wagon and look up at the stars as you're going to sleep. And don't those s'mores sound good that they're roasting over the campfire? Yum, I love s'mores. Do you like s'mores? Hey, tell me about the camping trip that you've been a part of. Right there in the comments. Leave me a comment and let me know whether you like s'mores. Year after year went by. Mr. Z got older and Emmy's shiny red paint faded. It got harder and harder to start her engine, and the day came when she wouldn't start at all. Mr. Z sadly backed his old friend into the barn. Thanks for your help all those years. He patted the little tractor fondly. I guess you've earned a rest, my friend. As one year faded into the next, Emmy was forgotten. Now all she had were her memories as she collected dust in the back of the barn. She sighed deeply as a tear slipped down her grill. Looky there, poor old Emmy. Dusty, broken, and forgotten. Wouldn't you like to hear the end of this story? I tell you what, you can. Just head over to Amazon and order a copy of Emmy Rides Again, and you read for yourself how she found out she wasn't too broken to be restored, but she could be fixed, and fixed she was. So you buy you a copy of Emmy Rides Again and find out the rest of the story. And we'll catch you later. Bye, guys.